Again, I don't remember off the top of my head what exactly you have to see, but you're just experiencing what the Gemara says. Okay, we're up to Peches Amid Aleph. Again, this is one of the more famous Gemaras in Shas, describing what occurred by Matan Torah. And Bez Hashem, tomorrow we'll see Moshe, what happened when he was on Asina with the Malachim. So we're about the third Taisus down, parallel to that, about 3 lines beyond that. It says, Vayisyatsu b'tachtis hahar, and they Vayisyatsu, and they stood, and it says, underneath the mountain. So the Lashon, underneath the mountain, again, very, very famous Gemara, you're all familiar with it. Amar Avdimi bar Chama bar Chasa. That's what you have to remember. Who said it? You know, Amar Avdimi bar Chama bar Chasa, right? Malamet shekafa HaKadosh Baruch Hu leim es hahar kegigis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu went ahead and he inverted the mountain on top of them. V'amalahem, he said, Im atem mekavma Torah motiv. If you go ahead and you receive the Torah, then great. V'im lav sham tekvuraschem. Over here, what will be your kavura? Sham is a funny lashon. My chavrusa on Shavuos night said it should say po tachas kavuraschem. In fact, I saw some place where it does say po. I saw a lashon that was brought down probably by a sefer that said lashon po. So the question, a very, very famous question is, if we said Nasev and Nishma, why was it necessary to have what? Kfiyah. Why was it necessary for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to force us? After all, we already said Nasev and Nishma. We all agreed we're going to accept the Torah. We're going to agree. So the Tosas asked the Kasha, top Tosas, Kafalem Har Kegigis, the Afa Pisha Kvaritnimu Nasev and Nishma. So he's asking, why would this be necessary? We already said we're Makabal Torah. We said Nasev, we said Nishma. Klal Yisrael died as a result of the Eish that they saw by Har Sinai, and perhaps then they would regret what saying Nasev Nishma, and therefore why it was necessary to go ahead and be kafal leimad hakigigis. That's Tosfos teretz.
Rabbi, I thought after Nasev and Nishma until the Egel, nobody was dying.
Again, by Matan Torah, after Nasev and Nishma, there was Matan Torah, they did die. As we, they didn't die a natural death, Steve. It was death, and they were brought back to life. As we're going to see, the Tal of Tchias HaMesim came and brought them back. So the fear would be, Steve, that they died as a result, brought back to life, and now being brought back to life after the fear of death, they would now go ahead and die. So it wasn't natural death; it was the fear of the awesomeness of God. So that's what Tosfos teretz is. The teretz that is more well known is the teretz of a Medrash Tanchuma that is found in Parshas Noach. It says that the Nasev and Nishma was on Torah Shebechsav. Nasev and Nishma was on Torah Shebechsav. It was necessary kfiyah for Torah Shebal Peh. So again, the two aspects of Torah, we know Torah Shebal has primacy over Torah Shebechsav. It goes ahead and explains the Torah Shebechsav. Without the Torah Shebal Peh, Torah Shebechsav is your tzedokah. So therefore, it was necessary, says the Medrash, to go ahead and say, to be kai for them, to force them because of what? The Torah Shebal Peh. Those are the Tosfos Pshat, and then there's the Medrash. There's a Maral. Maral is brought down by, I learned to my Chavrusa, and it's brought down by the art school. But it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful deher. We're going to see today, it says Yom HaShishi. It doesn't say Yom Harishon, doesn't say Yom Hasheni, Yom Hashlishi, Yom Hachini. It says Yom Hashishi, the day, it's a specific day. So the question is, what is the Shishi? So Reish Lakish is going to say the 6th day. The purpose of creation was the 6th day. Without the 6th day, meaning the 6th day of Sivan, without or the Hay standing for the Chamisha Chamshei Torah, there would be no world. There would be no world. So let's say Hashem did not go ahead and force us. So one would think, well, Torah is something that you can do conditionally. You know what? We had a choice. We would go ahead and choose the Torah or not choose the Torah. And then, well, if we didn't choose the Torah, the world would go on. That's not pshat. There would be no world. Yom HaShishi, the whole purpose of Shishi, of the 6 days of creation, was the 5 books of the Torah. The whole reason for what? For a creation, the same type of idea, is the 6th day of Sivan. So in other words, without Torah, I'm going to go ahead, you're going to die, and the world's going to go back to Tohu V'Ohu. So Hashem forced the issue that you shouldn't think that You shouldn't make a mistake, think that we're in this world, because the Jews made a good decision. No, there was no decision. It's a din of kfiyah. You were forced, because again, without us accepting the Torah, there would be no world. That's what the Maral says. There's no, guys, Bechira only takes place after the Torah is given. You didn't have a choice. You want to think, you would think that, Bnei Yisrael chose to keep the Torah, so therefore, no. You're forced to Torah. And once there's a Torah, you have Bechira, you have Yetzer Hara, you have Yetzer Tov. But Torah is primacy. Torah being in the world, that was the no choice. That's the Maral, the way he explains the philosophically the reason behind this. So those are three very nice approaches to a difficult concept, a din kfiyah. I'll just throw this out to you because I think it's a very, very good question, because you'll be able to think. We're all familiar with a very, very famous Rambam in Hilchos Gerushin. A person has to divorce his wife willingly, correct? And what if he doesn't want to divorce his wife willingly? So what do? We force him till he says Reitzani. We force him till he says, I want to. Now, the big question is, if you're forcing him, that's not Reitzani, right? If you're forcing him, that's not Rotza, correct? Answers the Rambam, no. He really wants to go ahead and do it. Right? But there's a Yetzer Hara who wants to make his wife bitter, whatever it is, there's a Yetzer Hara. Once he says Reitzani, it's really the Yetzer Hara. It's really him talking, right? It's really him talking. So what's the question over here? Right, here you're forcing them. What kind of force? What kind of force? It's not really force. You're not being coerced. There's no such thing as coercion. This is what they want in the first place. We'll say, let's see what the Gemara says, and we'll get back to this. So Amar Abdi Merachama Amar Chistam Lamit Shekafel Kodesh B'Mes Hakigigas. For Amar Lehem, Imatem Mekabel Torah Mutif. If you Mekabel the Torah, that's great. If you Mekabel the Torah, that's great. Vim Lav. If not, Sham take Furastem. Amar Racha B'Yakov Mikan Maidor Rabba L'Raisa. From here you have what? Maidor Rabba L'Raisa. We have a good complaint. Says Rashi. What's Maidor Rabba L'Raisa mean? Shem Yasmin L'Din. If you're subpoenaed to judgment, Lama L'Kiyamtim. Why you didn't fulfill the Torah? Masha Kibaltim Aleichem. Yeshlem Tshuva Shekiblu Ba'Inis. You could say, listen, you can't have any kindness on me. I didn't want to accept it in the first place. So you can't have any kindness on me. That's why. So with Mikan, Moed Rabba L'Raisa. So Menele, now I ask you the question. Like the Rambam guys, what kind of answer is this? Since Yitaka really want it, right? You really want to do it. I wanted to give my wife to get it. It's the Yetzer Hara that's not me. So I really wanted to keep the Torah. But it's the Yetzer Hara telling me not to. So how can you possibly have a legal defense saying what? Saying that, listen, you forced me. If forcing really is what? That you want to do in the first place. It's a great kasha. You should figure out the teretz. Anyone have a teretz yet? Wait, it sounds like it sounds like I'm in school. It's just like a bunch of people are older with beards.
Rabbi, I heard a shot by Ari Khan that is just beautiful. He says, first of all, betachtis hahar means at the foot. It doesn't mean necessarily under the mountain. They were told not to come up the mountain. So if they were at the foot of the mountain and the mountain came up, if it comes back down, they're not literally under. See, he says very interesting thing. If you're makabel the Torah now, when you have Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron and you have listening to God, then you'll be fine. But if not, then by Achashverosh, when you don't have Nevuah, you don't have the Beis Hamikdash, you don't have a Gadol Adar, basically, all you have is your knowledge of the Torah to have you fast, to have you daven, to get you through a situation like that. That's why it says Sham is over there by Achashverosh and not Po over here. I thought that was a reasonable. Yeah,
that would explain the Sham maybe, but it doesn't answer the question I'm posing now. In other words,
what's in the Nakuda of your question? Where's the
question? The question is like this: If you hold that really the Jew is totally good, right?
Right.
And anything that he is saying negative is really not him. So in other words, I don't want to divorce my wife. We force him till he says I want to. But if the meaning, so the question is, if you're forcing him, he doesn't really want to. Says the Rambam, no, he really wants to, right? So by Matan Torah, we're saying the following: since we were forced, we have a legal claim. What do you expect from me? You forced me. Friend Chasam Seifa, you don't really have that legal claim. You don't really have it because you really want to do the Torah. It's the Yetzer Hara that's saying not to. So how can it be a legal claim? It's a great question, right?
No, but Rebbe, if that's true, it'd be a klal. It's not just by divorce. It'd be by keeping Shabbos. It'd be keeping kosher.
Correct. That's correct. That's correct. That's exactly the question. Divorce is just an example of it. By George, you got it. That's the question.
It could be we only got the Rotzani after Matan Torah.
Okay, someone's name Stern gave my teretz. Guys, say it again, Moshe.
That we only got the will to be with Hashem after Matan Torah. So before that, there was no Rotzani.
No, before that, Taka wasn't in a kfiyah. Before that, if a person would have said Rotzani, Taka wouldn't have been Rotzani. It would have been forced. It would have been forced. That the Rambam is talking about after Matan Torah and whatever kedusha we got as a result, whatever connection we had, then the Yetzer Hara of Torah is there that we go ahead and we say Rotzani, it really means Rotzani. But before Matan Torah in Achinami, we could Taka be forced. That's the teretz. Great teretz.
The Luchos was later on, right?
Luchos later on.
So maybe what the Luchos was the completion of it, you know?
I get what it is. The kid said a good teretz. Why? Because I said the same teretz.
You gave him the
teretz. I
teretz?
said the same teretz, so it's a good teretz. No, Chasam Seif also said the teretz. Guys, you hear, it's very geschmack, right? You hear the?
Yeah, the before and after.
Okay, beautiful. Okay.
I heard a beautiful svara on the Kaf Aleim that it was really a chesed from the Rebbeinu Shalom that he did that because he did that. Lo yuchal shalcha kol yamav. The Rebbeinu Shalom, like by Naim Arasa, right? Lo yuchal shalcha kol yamav. He can never send her away. So he can't. The Rebbeinu Shalom can never send us away because he was koifa himself on us.
Oh, it's forced. Yeah, it's a very. Who said that pshat? It's a nice pshat.
I don't know. I heard it many years ago, and it's stuck.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Okay, there's one kasha here that we won't get into. It's a great kasha. Let's go a little weiter. So now, now you have a great pshat, right? You have a legal claim. So Amar Vacha Yaakov, you come with the Rabbi. So Amar Rabba, Afal Pikain, Hada Abarava, Afal Pikain, Hada Kiblu of Yimei Achashverosh. Chsiv Kimu v'Kiblu Yehudim, the Jews, they accepted the Yehudim Kimu Masha Kiblu Kfar. They were Makayim Kiblu Kfar. So in other words, after this now, Kimu, now afterwards we don't have this claim. Because we were Makayim it, right? Now we said we're Makayim what we were Makayim before. So the question is, so how do you be punished in between from Matan Torah all the way between what till Achashverosh? If we talk at Moedah Rabbi L'Raisa, if we talk at a legal claim, right? Okay, you'll get an answer to that. It's
Rabbi, I think it's easier to say that the Kabbalah at Matan Torah was coerced because you got to have the whole show and you have the Hashem talking. The Kabbalah by Achashverosh was more, was more free will because you had nobody enticing.
That's exactly correct, and that's exactly so. In other words, there was a Kabbalah by Achashverosh Bimei Purim that said, forevermore, you can't have a legal claim because you are accepting this willingly. So I'm asking you, so therefore, the legal claim only came about Bimei Purim. So meaning that we only did away with the legal claim. Therefore, we should never have been punished. In other words, there shouldn't have been a Churban Bayis Rishon. We shouldn't have been thrown into Bavel. We shouldn't have been punished for anything since we legally could have said, you forced me. It's a very famous question, and there are many different drachim, but let's go on, okay? It's beyond the scope of the share, as they say sometimes.
That's why they were mechuyev kliya. They never were completely destroyed for those averos. In other words, it doesn't let you off the hook. It mitigates the punishment.
That's one of the approaches. One of the approaches that you're not off the hook. It's less. Another approach is that it was only the one I like the most is only going Eretz Yisrael. Kfir was only that Eretz Yisrael. This Modola Raisa is it's only to do with Eretz Yisrael, but the rest of the Torah not. Okay, anyway, let's go back.
The first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed for the big three, which a non-Jew is mechayev, and also nothing to do with accepting the Torah.
Sinas Chinam, but the first Beis Hamikdash was the big three. So you would answer. So you want to answer destruction that has nothing to do. But again, we didn't get Zion mitzvahs. We got 630 mitzvahs, much. In other words, our Kabbalah of murder was not the same gather as the goys. And the pasuk that's mechayiv us and the goy are two different psukim. I hear your approach. It's a very, very much wants a taina that with the base of English was destroyed, it had nothing to do with Matan Torah. It had to do with the Zion mitzvahs ben Noach.
Even a guy would have been mechayiv. Even a guy would have been punished.
Yes, that's what he wants to say. So that would explain the destruction of the bias. It wouldn't explain the other punishments that we went through.
Rabbi, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. I don't think that the mountain was a threat. I think it was the opposite. I think it was a chuppah, and I think it was a party, and I think everything was handed to them, so it was easy to say we're going to accept it. But I think that it was the opposite of duress. I think it was enticement, and I think that by Achashverosh they realized then that all things being equal, they can't.
Yeah, again, everything you're saying is true, but it doesn't address the question. The question is, if we had a legal claim, we should be off the hook, and we weren't. Okay, excellent. Says the Gemara Baita. Amachizkiya, my dichsiv, it says, Mishamayim hishmata din aretz yora v'shakta. From Shemayim, this is speaking about Matan Torah, Maimon Sinai. Eretz yora, the land was sore v'shakta and it was calm. It was now in Yera, if it was in fear, lama shakta, then why was it calm? In shakta, if it was calm, lama yora, why was it in fear? El b'tchili yora, initially it was fear, el b'sayf shakta. V'lama yara, why were they scared? Kedei shlokish, somebody shlokish. My dichsiv ayeri v'chi yom hashishi. Right, we're talking about the land itself. It says, "Hey Yisera lamali." Why do you need that extra hey? V'lamit shehisna kadosh baruch hu ma'aseh bereishis v'amalahem. In Yisrael makalvim ha'Torah atem is kaimin. Again, we go through 6 days of creation. Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, Yom Chamishi, Yom Revi, Yom Chamishi, Yom Hashishi. All the previous days of ma'aseh bereishis was contingent upon this day. So can imagine all the years, of existence, the Malachim who were in charge of the land, they were scared. Because until the year 2448, there was no guarantee that they're still going to be around. Them lav, and if they're not going to be Kabbalah Torah, so that would explain why, based upon the moral, then the action of Kfiyah. Don't think for a second it was a choice. There was no choice. Because if Yisrael wouldn't accept the Torah, there'll be no purpose for this world. Okay, Dorish Rav Simoy goes ahead and asks the following question. B'shoshek dim Yisrael nasil and Nishma, Bo Shisha Ribi Shal Malachim Asharis came along 600,000 Malachi Asharis, V'chalecha v'yechad in Yisrael, for each and every one in Yisrael, Kashu Shnei Ksharim. They went ahead and they made 2 Ksharim, 2 crowns. Echad Keneged Naseh, v'echad Keneged Nishma. The Kima Shechati Yisrael, Yardu Meya ve'esrim rivui malachi chavala. We had 1,200,000, double 600,000 came down. Malachi chavala uparkum. They removed it. Shneimar ve'isnatzu ben Yisrael as Edyom they lost. They were stripped of what of Edyom their jewelry. Mehar chorev. Amrav Chan Rachanina mechorev tanu. The chorev we were loaded down. The chorev parkim and chorev and by Sinai we were freed. The chorev tanu kidamaron that you received the crowns. And they lost Edom. Moshe was zeicha to all these crowns, and he took them. Says Rashi, of splendor hoyu, Moshe carrying our panah. Therefore, that was the result of Moshe's face that was beaming. That he had to wear a masach, he had to wear a mask. Was the result of getting all these all the hoyd from all the ksarim that were there, the samech leib, because it says Moshe yikach es ha'oil. Moshe took it. Amrei shlakish asar hakadosh baruch hu asiron. In the future, we'll get it back. Lanu shneimar u'peduya Hashem yeshuvin u'boy tzion berina b'simcha oilam al reisham. Simcha shemei oilam al reisham. Simcha that was from oilam al reisham. Okay. Amrei balaza b'shosh shekdimu Yisrael nasil and nishma yotza baskol and amra alehem migivu lebnei roz. Who revealed to the bus of Adam the secret. Shemalchi Asheretz Mishtamshim by the Ksiv. Baruch Hashem Alachav Gibori Koyach Osid Devarai. The Shmaya called Devarai Bereish. So it says the Shema called Devarai. Now it says Bereisha Oisa V'Hadol Shmaya. It says beginning Oisa Devarai Oisa Lashon Oisa V'Hadol Shmaya. And then it says what? And then it says the Shmaya. Now what were these Kesarim, guys? What were these two crowns? What were these two crowns? So I saw the Chassam Sleifa, and I heard from my son the Svas Emes. They both say the same thing, similar. The two Kesarim were the Neshama Yisera. The two Neshama Yisera. That this extra Neshama they got as a result of Nasham and Nishma was Neshama Yisera, and they lost it, and Moshe took it. And every Shabbos, what happens? Moshe gives it back to us. Yismach Moshe. The matnas chelkoid kiev neman kroslol kelil teferesh broishay the sattel fnecha shenicha when we stood on Har Sinai and he had the crowns, and so he gives it back to us. And that the beauty that is what of the Tuksarim. Yes, Yehuda.
How does this all stem with the Medrash Tanchuma that says that the kfira was only by Torah Shabbal Peh? The Nasa Nishma, they only readily accepted Torah Shabbal Ksav. So why would we get to Ksarim only for accepting half?
So maybe it doesn't stem with that. Maybe it goes with something else. In other words, maybe again that's according to that Medrash. Maybe it's a conflicting Medrash. It's a good question. It's a good point. Now, I saw my son Simcha told me a beautiful deher in the Nasev and Nishma. What's the Nasev and Nishma? Where's the secret? Where did they get that secret from? Where did they know that from? Where did they know that that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted? That the Malachim came and said, "Who revealed our secrets?" So going back to the Gemara in the beginning of Avodah Zarah, guys. Why does the Gemara say in the beginning of Avodah Zarah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu went around to the nations to go ahead and offer them the Torah? Who was the first nation he came to? Esav. Why did he tell Esav? Can't kill, can't steal. Anyway, it says, I live according to my sword. Then afterwards, who he came to? He came to the Arabs. He came to Ishmael. Yeah. I want to say Ishmael. He said Ishmael. He said that what? That. He said Ishmael, you can't steal. And Ishmael said, I steal. Listen, I live in Brooklyn. I have to loot. I have to steal. It's unheard of not to. Guys, watch the Shorish of Esav. Ayin, Sin, Hey, Asa. Watch the Shorish of Yishmael. Shin, Mem, Ayin. So the order that HaKadosh Baruch Hu presented when he went to the nations, first Esav and then Yishmael, showed that, says the Vilna Gaon, showed what? That's the order. Nasa v'nishma. Beautiful. You got to be a Gaon to say that. Vilna Gaon said that. Okay, it's a beautiful pshat. Says Gemara Vaita. Amrav Chama v'Rabchinina Ma'idechsiv ketapuach ba'atzei yar kain doidi bein abonim. Pasuk Shirim, like a tapuach ba'atzei yar, so too is my dodi, my beloved bein abonim. Lama nimshul Yisrael tapuach. Why is Yisrael compared to literally an apple? Lo melecha ma tapuach zeh parav koydem la'olav. Just like this apple, its fruit comes before the leaves. The fruit comes before the leaves. Af Yisrael hikdimu nasel and ishma. So to Yisrael, they were magdim nasel and ishma, which is not the norm. Usually a person hears and then does, and usually a fruit, the leaves come first. Here it was the opposite. So look at Tosfos. Parav koydem la'olav. Hikshar ben tam. Shari anuroyim. We see shegidol kishari lanais. If you look at an apple tree, guys, first comes the leaves, and then comes the apple. We don't have the apple before the leaf. Doesn't happen. Umefarish and Rabbi Tam therefore explains the tapuach hainu esrig. The tapuach is the esrig. It's not an apple. It's an esrig. The reach apechat kitapuchim. When it says the reach apecha, the smell of your af, of your nose, like tapuchim, vitagminon kerechad esroiga. So you see that we see the targum of tapuach is esrig. It's an esrig. And the esrig period of koydem leilov. The esrig, the fruit, is before the leaves. Shedor be'ilam mishana l'shana. An esrig stays on the tree, guys, from year to year. shalashtakin, and last year's leaves fall off and then replaced by new leaves. But the new leaves already have last year's esrog. So the esrog comes before what? Before the leaves. So I was thinking, if you ever heard that Eve gave Adam the apple, right? If you ask, yes, they think biblically that the Eitz Hadas, the forbidden fruit, was an apple. Now, we know the few days, either was a geffen, it was a chita. I think we did this in brachas. It was a geffen, it was a chita, it was a wheat, quite in the ched was wheat, or it was a esrog. So it could be this is the source. You see that esrog is called what? A tapuach. In Hebrew, what do we call a tapuach? An apple. So perhaps this is the source for it being an apple. A lumdasha mistake.
Now, Rabbi, I have my machzor on Rosh Hashanah. When we eat dipped apple in the honey, it brings down that this is the reason why we dip the apple is from this pasuk. It teaches it. I think it's an Avud Raham. It teaches it from this pasuk as being an apple.
Okay. So again, you have a targum. What's the point?
No, I'm saying it's not an esrog.
Literally, a tapuach is an apple. The chiddush here, it's an esrog. You have Tosfos Kashi Yehuda.
Agreed.
I'm saying so weiter. How would tzedaki? There was the tzedaki. The chazia l'rava the kama'ayim b'shmaitza. He saw Rabbi. He was looking in his sugya. The yasva atzba esad the yadei tute kare. He had his hands underneath his legs, and he was squeezing so tight. The kamayetz bahu, and the blood was flowing. He was squeezing. The kamavayinetz voice of dama. He was squeezing so tight. The blood was coming out, and he was totally unaware of it. Rabbi was totally unaware of it. So Amalei, I'm a Pazisa, a nation of people who act hastily. Misa pumaychu ladonaichu. Your mouth came before your ears. Akati pichuzaisu kamaisu, bereishi boiluhu le mashma imitsisu kibesi of looking. You should have asked and heard one before the other. You should have before you accepted. So Amalei, Rabbi told him. We go, Rashi says, we go with HaKadosh Baruch Hu with simplicity. Kesiv bon, it says by us, Tumois Yesharim Tnachem. The simplicity of the Yesharim leads. But Hanich Inish, you, the Sagim Elusa, you're busy with your perverseness. Ksivuhu V'selef Boigim Yeshadim, perverseness of those people who don't believe, Yeshadim will destroy them. That's the dialogue. Now the question is that I had is what is the beginning that he's sitting on his legs and the blood is coming out of his fingers? What does that have to do with the whole conversation? So this is the way my son Simcha wanted to say. Obviously, he was in a different zone. He was learning with such hislavos that he was unaware that physically he was seeing pain. So Tzedaki looks at him and says, this doesn't make any sense. Just like Matan Torah didn't make any sense, where you went ahead and said Nasa before Nishma, here you are, what are you doing? You're sitting there. And Rabbi answer says, it goes, no, you don't understand. You think I'm in pain. You think I'm suffering because you only can see from the outside. You can't imagine the simcha, the happiness that I'm experiencing when I'm learning, ad kedei kach, that I'm not unaware of anything. L'maisa, there's a very famous story of Rav Shach. Rav Shach told a story over these people who were going to the gas chambers. They were on the way to the gas chambers. And one said to the other, it's Simchas Torah. And they started to dance on the way to the gas chamber. Rav Shach said, he's Makana, the happiness of these people, how happy they were. They were totally, they weren't connected to their physical goof. They were only concerned in what? This is the Ratzon HaBorei. There was a happiness that goes ahead and takes you out of this world. That you can go ahead. I think that's what bothered the Nazis the most. They could take the Jew's body, but they couldn't take the Jew out of the Jew. They couldn't. It was not possible. They couldn't do it. Disturbed them greatly. And so Rav Shach said he was Makana these people. So because why? Because you cannot, people would have seen these people dancing on the way to the gas chamber, they would have said they're nuts. We would have said they're nuts. Elama, the happiness that they felt totally removed from their physical. And that's Pshat over here in the dialogue between Rabbi and Tzedakah. You Tzedakah, what are you looking at? You're looking at the Nasev and Nishma. You don't know what you're talking about. You're looking at me. You can't imagine the happiness that Bnei Yisrael received when they said Nasev and Nishma, just like you can't perceive where I am now because I'm totally unaware of my physical being, that my hands are bleeding. And it's a nice to explain a difficult Gemara. Amar Shmuel Nachmeni Amar Yonason, my dechsiv, the pasuk says, Levavtini achosi kala. Okay, what does that mean? Levavtini achosi kala, because you captured Levavtini achosi kala, like my sister. Levavtini betachas meinayich, one of my eyes. Betchila beachas meinayich. Initially, you attracted me with one of your eyes, and lecheshetasa, and then that was the nasa, and then when you do the mitzvah nasa v'nishma, then b'shtei inayich, and then it's with both eyes. Amaula. Aluva kalam is mizane b'toich chupasa. How mevazel we were Kodesh Baruch Hu mizane b'toich chuppah. Har Sinai 40 days later, what are we doing? Where we have the Cheder Egel. Mamish, we didn't leave Har Sinai yet. We didn't leave the chuppah of Matan Torah. And yet what? 40 days later, even though it's after Matan Torah, but this was all called Maimed Har Sinai. Again, Moshe brought down the luchas, but he had to teach the Torah to everybody, which took a long time. And even in that period, you went ahead and you turned away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Lashon Znus is to turn away. One turns away from their husband, we turned away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. My Amar Rav Mori Amar Rav Mori Barod Bashmuel, the son of the daughter of Shmuel, Mikra, Achamelach b'Mesibay near the Nasarechai. The king was still at his party, and near the Nasarechai, and the perfume, it lost its smell. Amar Rav Adayin Chavivusay Higabon. And still, what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu still loves us, despite the fact what we did. It said it gave out, it dried up, but it didn't become disgusting. It didn't become putrid to smell. Tanur Aluvin ve'ein aluvin. Right? Those are people who are embarrassed and they don't answer back. Shem cherpasan ve'ein meshivim. They hear the cherpa, the disgrace, and they don't answer. Oisami ava usmeichen b'yisurim. Right? They serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu Alva, and they're happy with Surim. Aleim HaKos V'Omer, V'Oihavov, Kitzeis HaShemesh B'Gvurasai. Those who love him, they'll be like the sun going out in its might. I don't remember who B'Shem I saw it from, but why would the dafka the sun? Because we know by Maisa Bereshis that they were created Shnei Moris Gedolim. They were created equal, the sun and the moon. The moon complained and said, Yefshel Shnei Malachim Mishtamish B'Keser Echad. You can't have two kings. So Kadosh Baruch Hu leich matzi atzmei, go make yourself smaller, and he did. The sun heard the cherpa that the moon was complaining. The sun remained quiet, and therefore it was rewarded.
The arch will bring the down to Tosus Harosh.
My dechsev, Hashem yitain oimer hamavasrei sava rav. Hashem's oimer hamavasrei sava. Right? He mavasrei. He's mavasa. He informs us sava rav. Of a strong army, every came out nechlach l'shiv l'shaynes. It came out it was nechlach to 7 different languages. Ton of Rabbi Shmuel learned, right? Ukipatish yefaitzes sela, like a hammer, Hashem breaks a rock. Ma patish zeh nechlach coming it's just as the hammer when it hits the rock, it goes ahead and divides it into many smaller pebbles. Av kol dibur v'dibur shiyatzim b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Divided into what? The 70 languages. Amram Chananel bar Papa, my dechsiv, the pasuk says, Shimu bi negidim adader. Listen, I'll speak negidim like a nugget, like a prince. Lamadim shlu dibik kenugget. Why the words of Torah compared to a nugget? Laim lecha. My nugget zeh yesh boy lahamis lahafiyos. Just as a nugget has the power to go ahead and take your life and give you life. After Torah yesh boy lahamis lahafiyos. So the Torah has the power to go ahead to give you life and take your life. And Hainu Damarov, that's what Rabbi said, those people who go to the right of Torah, it's the sum of life. Masbilim ba, those people who go to the left, some of the Maisa, it's the drug of death. Those people who use Torah for the wrong reasons, who learn Torah for the wrong reasons, the Lord, the Bagaiva, for different reasons. Davar Acher, Negidim, what does Negidim mean? Kol Dibur v'Dibur Shiyatzim Pi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, every Dibur that came out of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Koishul Mashnei Ksarim, he had 2 crowns tied to each one. like a nugget, like a prince. Amishuman Levi, Maidich Siv, Soror Hamar, Doidi Li, Ben Shaddai Yolin, Soror Hamar, a packet of mar. Dodai is my beloved, Ben Shaddai Yolin. Amiknes Yisrael Mekodesh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shloim. Afal Pisha Neitza Remain Ali Doidi. Even though you, my beloved HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you miyatzim me, you distressed me, you made me bitter by taking away the ksarim. Nonetheless, Ben Shaddai Yolin, nevertheless, what you're still beloved. Eshkol HaKoifer Doidi Li B'Karmi and Gedi. Again, Rabbi Truman Levi's all interpretations of psukim in Shir Hashirim. So Eshkol is a cluster of something. HaKoifer Doidi Li B'Karmi and Gedi in the vineyards of En Gedi. Misha Kol Shaloi Mechapoli. Eshkol is lashon a lot of Ish Eshkol. Everything's in him. Misha Kol Shaloi. Right? They say that the Rav Chaim Moshe was Ish Eshkolis. Misha Eshkoli is someone who has everything. Misha Kol Shaloi Mechapoli. Someone who belongs makes kapara for me. Al Oivin Gedi Shekamatili, for the sin of the Gedi, the sin of the calf, right? Shekamatili, which I brought upon myself. My mashma the high karmi is lishna the mechnashu. It's a lashon of heaping upon myself. Rav Nachman of a Mishnah in Kidatan, a Mishnah in Kalim. What does it say in the Kalim? Right? The Mishnah says, Kisei shel koives, the shear of a launderer, shekormim loves the Kalim, to pile Kalim. So you see that lashon of koinim is to pile up upon. From Yeshua ben Levi, my dechsiv, it says, l'choyav karugas haboisem, his cheeks are like what? Beds of spices. Kol diba v'diba sheyatzim yakadosh baruch hu. Every diba that came out of the house of Kadosh Baruch Hu, nismali kolam kul b'sanim. The whole world was filled with b'sanim. Fred the Gemara, v'kimishe mediba rishon nismali. Once the first diba came out and the whole world was full of b'sanim, diba sheni lahechem halach. So in other words, where does the second one go? You have the first one, and the first one you're smelling the first one. So how's anyone going to smell the second one if the world is nismali with the first one? Diba Shen Al Hechen Halach says, Hakadosh Baruch Hu Ruach Me'etzrayis. Hakadosh Baruch Hu took a ruach out from his Eitzer. V'hoye Rishon. Each fragrance came out, it blew away the previous one. Shenemar, because it says, Sif Soisav Sheshanim, his lips are flowers. Noitvois Mar Over, they're dripping mar. Al Tikri Sheshanim, don't say flowers, ella what? She Shoinim, that they were what? They were repeated. Steve, this is what happened. When they went ahead, every Dibur that came out of the house of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the people died. They died. To hear HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they died. They died. Shenemar, Nafshi Yatsa B'Darbai. My nefesh left as he spoke. Umiacha Shemed Dibur Rishon Yatsa Nishmasan. And after the Dibur first came back, Dibur Sheni Hech Kiblu. Guys, if they were dead after number one, how are you dying by number two? You can only die once. You can only die once unless you're a Jet fan. There's many deaths for Jet fans, trust me. Many, many times. It's
Rabbi, we had a little break from that, please. I finally got my neshama back.
You're a Jet fan?
Yeah. Okay.
Really?
All of them painful.
Yeah,
All of the deaths were painful.
Now's the time to get on the Saints bandwagon.
That bandwagon's gone.
See, I have a reason I'm a Jet fan.
Nice.
His name's Joe Namath. What's your reason? You weren't even half a meter when Joe Namath was around.
I heard about him. That's why.
I'm from Queens.
Okay, so you're also a Jet fan?
I watched them play at Shea.
Oh, you're old enough. You probably saw Joe Namath.
I did.
For every
69.
Namath, you had a Todd. Okay, so
Steve, Steve, I can mute you forever. There's something called remove here. I can remove you. I remove you like from New Orleans. I wouldn't hear from you. So Ike still.
my paper bag. How's that?
Right.
They see
Rabbi,
the
you
Saints
said
have as many rings as the Jets, okay?
What, Benji?
The Saints have as many rings as the Jets.
There's my guy Benji.
That's it.
Rabbi, you said that's why we were Makabal Island Haba because of it.
Okay. Anyway. So Nachmal. So now every they died. So you died once, and that's it. So how can you die again and again and again and again and again and again and again? Says the Gemara, Dina Sheni Heich Kiblu is Hayridu Tal Sha'asa Lahachias Mason. Because she brought the dew by Tchias Mason and say the dew is going to come down and it's going to bring everyone back to life. So they died and they were reborn, and they died and they were reborn, and that repeated itself. It says, Geshem nedavais tonif Elohim nachlasta v'nila ata kinanta. A lot of rain you gave upon your people. The people who were tired, you established it firmly. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Kol Dibur v'Dibur Shiyatzim v'Yakadosh Baruch Hu, Chazu Yisrael Achareim Shnei Osam Mil. Kadosh Baruch Hu, they retreated 12 mil. V'Hayim Mahalchem Asheris Madin Asay. The Malchei Asheris would come and they would help them come back. Shneimar Malchei Tzavakos Yidudun Yidudun. The Malchei Tzavakos, they move. Al Tikri Yidudun, don't say that they move. Ali Yidadun, they move others. They help to move others. Okay, the next piece of Gemara is let's do it tomorrow night. It's a good place to have a fresh start.
So Rabbi, they died or they fainted?
It says they died. Yatsa Nishmasan.
So what's the second thing?
For fainting, you wouldn't have to bring the Talib Tchias HaMisim.
Right. So what's the second member of Yeshua ben Levi? They got knocked back 12 mil. What does that mean?
That also happened. They died. They got knocked back and forth. Who understands these things? You understand these things? We touched Gemara.
That's why I'm asking.
Trust me. You're picturing little hop steps back. Please take, like you're playing that game, take a giant step forward and back. Trust me, whatever happened. It's describing that I think people leaving their physical existence because of the Kedusha that transpired over there. Yes, Yisrael Greenfield.
So I was just wondering, that last kol, the last Besamim, it remained in the world?
The last one remained in the world? It could be. I don't know. It could be it dissipated over time, but if each Hebrew is coming out one after the other, so that's the kasha. If it's coming out one after the other, so there's how can you have the second smell after the first one's still there?
No,
so,
just nothing.
Over time, it could have dissipated.